Well, welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, and today I'm really excited to be joined again by the geniuses behind Artfarm. So that would be Dick Wheeler and Marcella Trowbridge. And even though it's just the beginning of spring, we're just about there, I'm already thinking about the end of July and Shakespeare in the Grove. So I thought it would be great if you could talk about what your plans are. At this stage, I know at the end of the show's run, you strike the thing and it's over. But obviously you start way, way early thinking about which play and who will be in it and what it will look like. So let's talk about it. What's the play?
Well, this year we are taking on sort of a monumental piece, which is King Lear. We're really excited. King Lear feels like a play that, for me, in my experience, it's not one that I see done very often, and I don't know if partly it's because of the demands of the lead, and we're really excited because we have an actor, John Basinger, who is a sort of a local icon. He turns 80 this May.
Oh, really?
He really does, May 10th, which is the day of our fundraiser, which we can talk about, our Shakespeare Slam. But May 10th, he turns 80, and it is an interesting thing because you want a Lear who really has this life experience and this age that he can bring to the role, and yet to be able to play a role that's this full and this demanding emotionally, and from a text and memorization perspective, you need to have some strength and some endurance, and so you don't often find those in the same actor, which is, I think, partly why you don't see Lear done as often as some of the other plays. So we're really excited, and again, I think choosing a play like Lear, my feeling is you don't decide to do Lear and then look for a Lear. You sort of have someone that you feel like, okay, this is the time for this actor in this company, and that's the time now for us. We are in the middle of casting. I guess we can talk a little bit about some of the build-up towards this production, but it's true, we select our play shortly after we close the last one and start planning both from a fundraising perspective, but also in terms of our partnerships, like our partnership here with you, Anna, and the college, and all of the relationships that come into play into bringing a production into fruition. So Lear is, I think about when I met with John, again, the actor playing Lear, months ago in talking about this, we were already talking about what is it like in July in the Grove when we're rehearsing. It's full sun for a big chunk of the time. Okay, well, what does that mean for an 80-year-old actor who has to protect himself from heat, protect himself from the sun, but also has to be strengthening? And it's a big space here at the college, which is part of what's so delicious about the experience. But, starting way back when, talking about, well, what is this going to mean come July? So yeah, we're excited about Lear, and I started to say we're in the middle of casting. We have a core company. It's worked with us for years, and that's where a lot of the casting happens. And then, we look far and wide for talent to fill some of the roles that our company doesn't fill, and we're sort of in the middle of that. And we've been holding auditions here at the college. In fact, we're seeing a few more folks in a couple of days. I don't know, Dick, if you want to talk a little bit more about our
why don't we talk about that when we get back? But we jumped into this in medias res, and I want to be sure everybody knows that every summer, Artfarm puts on an outdoor production of a Shakespearean play. And which summer will this one be? How many years have you done?
Number 9.
Number 9. That's my lucky number. Yeah. So it won't rain and it won't be too hot, right?
That's right.
Yeah, right. And it's certainly open to the public, and it is this wonderful experience outside where people bring their own chairs or their own blankets and their food, and they sit on a lawn that slopes gently down into a grove of trees, and then the magic begins. So when we come back, let's talk about how it's going with cast. Well, we're back, and I'm talking today with Artfarm.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about Artfarm? What is Artfarm?
Sure. Well, Artfarm, our mission is to cultivate high-quality theater with a commitment to simple living, environmental sustainability, and social justice. And we started in 2001. We incorporated as a nonprofit in 2006. And our vision from the beginning is to have a small farm with a barn that's converted into a workshop/theater space where interns could come during the summer, and kids could come, adults could come, do workshops in organic gardening and get their hands dirty, but also study theater and be part of the theater productions. And we've really been looking for 10 years now for the right piece of land. We are still operating out of an office in our backyard, and borrowing and partnering spaces, and which is, I think, a plus and minus, because we don't have the overhead of having a facility and the amount of money that it takes to sustain a facility. But the minus is, of course, we haven't got the complete vision yet. Mm-hmm. And we really, we sort of decided a couple of years in, after trying, looking at a lot of different properties, it's like, well, what we need to do is we need to get Artfarm, the brand, out there. We need to start programming. That if there's no program, there's no Artfarm. As long as there's program, then we're going to have an identity, and hopefully the rest will come. And that's when we started doing Shakespeare in the Grove, and we also tour an environmental education circus called Circus for a Fragile Planet that goes to schools throughout the Northeast, or mostly schools. We do a lot of residencies in schools. We have a youth circus program as well that we collaborate with Oddfellows Playhouse on doing that. So we do a lot of things, but we're still looking for our own home, and that's kind of the thing that's always just beyond. It seems we keep looking at places, they're not quite right, the timing's not right, the zoning is not right, because we'd like to stay in Middletown. We feel like Middletown is our home. It's where our community is. It's I was the artistic director of Oddfellows Playhouse, the youth theater, for 25 years, and have a lot of young people who are adults now who grew up working with me in theater, and some who've become part of our company as adult professionals, which is kind of exciting. And so that is kind of the bigger picture of Artfarm. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, it's interesting, I guess, when you talk about home and talking with you here, it is interesting because I think the community college has been our resident home. We do so much work out in the community, and we're in a lot of schools and a lot of different venues, mostly around the state, but certainly in the region. And that is in many ways the bread and butter of the organization and a really important part of meeting our mission. But it has been interesting that, next year will be a decade that we've been here at the college. And
we need to celebrate.
We do. Yeah. We do need to celebrate, as well as it'll be this the anniversary, the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's death next year.
That's 2016.
Oh, 2016. All right, we're close. We're building up. We're building up. But that is interesting, and because I feel like it's true, while in some ways we're somewhat nomadic in that we don't have the home to provide some of the programming that we do bring out into the community, and yet at the same time our relationship here at the college is the one real place where we bring people to us, and so we think of this as us. If that,
I'm very happy to hear that.
And I think that's become, even more true after last year when we really collaborated on the Shakespeare on Campus initiative, and we're getting more into classrooms, doing Shakespeare, doing other things, getting students and faculty and staff performing Shakespeare in the student lounge, and then the Shakespeare Acting Laboratory, which is an adult class that Marcella teaches, now had its second performance in its second year. Had its shared night last night, and
how'd it go?
Oh, it was great. It's so lovely to be able to share what I'm passionate about with, again, while we work with people of all different ages and certainly work with a fair amount of youth and college-age students, it's also really lovely to bring this work to adults in the community. And this year, I happened to have all men. So it was really interesting to have this group of fellas between the ages of 24 and 74 in my class. And it was rich. Some folks, one of the young fellas just graduated with a degree in theater and has been really doing this for years, and then someone who had never done anything like this, and people coming from all different walks of life and socioeconomic strata and educational experience. And it's really, I feel like when people left last night, people's hearts were full, people had smiles on their faces, because I feel like all of the men in this class felt it was clear that it took a fair amount of courage and vulnerability to be able to do what they did. And I think everyone left feeling just another inch or two taller, which was really exciting for me. No matter what they do with that work, it's funny, I feel like my soapbox around education in theater a little bit is that some of the things that you glean from doing this kind of work, there's goal setting and follow through, there's commitment to a group, and there's personal accountability. And those are things that no matter whether you pursue theater or an art form as a profession or a hobby, these are things that are a marriage, a job. These are the kinds of skills that to be able to communicate effectively and follow through on commitments and work in a group.
Yeah.
And bring and yet do your part, do your homework, because the group falls apart if you haven't done your part. So it's fascinating to me to watch that process and how that applies across the board for people who are successful. I use the word successful in quotes because I don't know that my measure of success necessarily matches up with our Western measure of success, but I think of that as really as being someone who can feel good about who they are and what they do and how they contribute. So that's been really exciting. So yeah, I guess that brings us back to sort of what we're doing and why we're doing it here.
Right. Well, and let's talk about a couple of things that are coming up relatively soon, because isn't April 4th a performance here on campus?
Yes, that's true.
So many.
That's right. And that's
remember.
That's our youth circus is
right.
performing. Circophony is the name of the group, and they're doing a show this year called Circus in Wonderland, and it is basically kind of Alice falls through the rabbit hole and ends up at the circus. So you've got, the white rabbit on a unicycle, and when she gets tiny, everybody else is suddenly on stilts. And then she, eats the cake, and suddenly she's on stilts, and everybody else is tiny. And you've got, juggling Mad Hatter, and the Queen does a fabulous balancing act that's really impressive on multiple levels. And so these are all students between the age of 12 and 18, many of who have been training for quite a few years through the Children's Circus of Middletown, which is a City and Oddfellows summer program that I started back in 1988. and yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that is meant as I think that Adrian, who kind of is the catalyst for Adrian Maslin, the catalyst for that is trying to create events that are going to serve students that have kids.
Sure.
And I know they had Ronnie Arbo and Daisy Mayhem in the fall, and that, so this is really anybody. Obviously, you don't need to be a student. I think it's free and open to the public. The performance
and it's at Chapman Hall.
Chapman Hall, 7:00 on Friday, April 4th.
Knowing that space, I'm really curious to see how it's going to work. You've worked through all the logistics.
Well, our Circus for a Fragile Planet has performed in there twice over the last 5 years, so we kind of know how to kind of work with the space, and we bring our own backdrops, so that kind of helps create a stage area. And I know it's going to be a little complicated because there's the same day that we're performing in the evening, there's that
we have a women's forum
that day. So and so there's some complicated logistics, but I think it'll all be fine.
I'm not worried about moving tables. I'm thinking about riding unicycles. Can you ride a unicycle?
Oh, I don't ride very well. No, I kind of go across a room and then fall down. I've never...
He's the clown that falls down. The juggler that
it's incredibly hard.
I think so.
It is really hard.
Some of your youth performers can ride on a unicycle.
Yeah, a lot of them ride, actually. It's amazing, and I think it's just, like juggling, it's easier for some people than for other people. I mean, when I was in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time getting up and falling down and getting up and falling down for months and months trying to learn how to ride a unicycle. And I never quite got to the point where it's like, oh, I can turn, I can go backwards, I can have control. And then at some point I just kind of let it go and stopped working on it.
Are you a good juggler?
I'm a pretty good juggler, yeah.
He's a great juggler. He's a modest juggler.
I have to find, and you maybe know about this, there's research about what juggling does to rewire your brain so that you're just a smarter person in the end. It's
right.
it's an incredible skill that makes your brain just function at 10.
Mm-hmm.
So and I don't know how to juggle, so that's one of the things I need to learn how to do. All right, well, so we have to break again, and when we come back, we'll talk about the Shakespeare Slam.
Great.
And then finally the Shakespeare in the Grove this summer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've reached the last part of this program. This always goes way too quickly. We were starting to work through a calendar of events, reminding you that you're on April 4th here at Middlesex Community College, Chapman Hall, 7 p.m. It's a Friday night, Circophany. Everyone should come. Children, old people, regular people, just to be a wonderful experience. And I would love to see how that's going to work in that space. And then there's Shakespeare Slam.
Yes.
Because I went to that last year for the first time.
It's so fun.
I'm still laughing.
It is a great party.
It is. So so between here now, April 25th, we're having a little cocktail fundraiser at the Wash Center for Retired Faculty at Wesley, and that's April 25th. And then May 10th, just after that, is our Shakespeare Slam fundraiser. And this year it will be held at the Community Health Center downtown in Middletown. And
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. And it is, so the Shakespeare Slam, it's a fundraiser in a really, I think, an interesting, dynamic, creative party kind of way. So the folks can perform, and it's sort of like a walkathon in the sense that performers need to get sponsorship to be able to perform, and we encourage creative interpretations, short sections of Shakespeare. They can be solo performances or group or duets, and people perform for the audience that comes. There's lots of food and drink and people wandering around with hors d'oeuvres who are dressed in gowns. It's really a fun party. And so again, that is May 10th.
At the Community Health Center, where within that building will you do this?
So there will be two sections. They have a large community room in the downstairs. That will be the main event.
Performance space.
That's the performance space, and there will be the ability to go up in small groups to the roof. And we would love to do the whole thing on the roof, but you can't count on the weather. In early May.
Right.
So and that's great. They're just great folks and super supporters of Artfarm. So that'll be fun. And so let's see. After May 10th, we also have May 23rd. We have Tina Packer, who is the founder of Shakespeare and Company up in the Berkshires. She is one of the foremost and most exciting and inspiring authorities on Shakespeare that's currently alive, certainly of the women who are alive today. And we're going to be hosting her down at Long Wharf in New Haven, and she'll be talking about King Lear and family relationships in King Lear. So we'll be doing that May 23rd. We have Bernie Siegel coming in June. We haven't nailed down the date. Bernie Siegel, who's the author of Love, Medicine, and Miracles, he's coming in to speak, and this is part of our larger project around the Lear Project. We're, certainly leading up to our production of King Lear here at the campus of the college, July 17th to 27th. We'll be running 2 weekends, Thursdays to Sundays. But leading up to that, we are having community dialogues around King Lear and decisions around aging, and looking through the lens of King Lear at what we're dealing with in our real lives, and what the story of King Lear and Shakespeare's work can sort of tell us about, things that maybe were good decisions that Lear and his daughters made, and maybe not so great, and how we navigate those things. So that's why we're bringing someone like Bernie in. But yes, so we have a couple of fundraisers, but then some free community events. So like Tina Packer and Bernie, we just want people to come and be a part of that conversation. Other things?
Yeah, we do have Professor John Klaus from Hofstra University coming in and talking about Lear as well, more as academic, and looking at the play and how it fits into Shakespeare's canon, and that'll be in July, closer to the performance. And we are trying to connect to the senior community in a lot of ways, sort of throughout the spring, with the hope that Lear will serve as a place where conversations can happen about aging and about the decisions that kids make about their parents, that parents make about their kids, that people make for themselves as they get older and they need to decide where to live and how to support themselves, and whether they can be independent. And that is all at the heart of King Lear. So it seemed like kind of an obvious way to go with this. That this, let's try and build audience, but also build community and build discussion, because that for us has always been important, and that's part of, I think, the social justice part of Artfarm's mission, is that we feel the theater we are doing, even if it's 400 plus years old, should be relevant, and it is relevant.
It's incredibly relevant. That's
all
right.
These plays are about very real human interactions, human challenges that still are as true today as they were 400 or 500 years ago, and that we shouldn't just be doing the best production of the play that we can, but we should be finding ways to have the play resonate within our community and serve as a way for the community to talk to each other through the art.
So get it rooted in the community, which is a wonderful piece that ties together the agriculture and the food and all of that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I am in awe of what Shakespeare was able to do. It is remarkable that one person could have been able to distill human experience into that variety of plays, and all of them, each one of them, is incredibly beautiful and poetic and lyrical, but also it hits you in the heart.
It moves me.
Yeah.
You know, it's so interesting because I come back again and again to why do Shakespeare, and it comes back to that human experience that, you know, if we can as a company take these works and bring them in an articulate, accessible fashion to our community, then we have an opportunity together to be able to reflect on what it is to be human, and the decisions that feel right, the decisions that feel wrong, our hurts, our angers, our losses, our joys. And I feel like in this very fast-moving age of technology, Western world, there are not as many opportunities to reflect on who we are and how we got to be here, and the decisions that we make and how they impact not only ourselves and our loved ones, our communities, but the greater world around us. So I feel very fortunate to have Shakespeare's text to help us along the way.
And we have eight performances.
Yeah.
So everyone in Connecticut can come to one of those. We never sell out. We never have standing room only because we're on this huge piece of land.
That's
and we're not organizing people into rows and seats.
Right, and even if it rains, we have Chapman Hall as a rain location, which, if it's the only chance that people can get to see the play, they should come even if it's raining.
Yeah, we got to remind people that, yeah.
Because it is special even when it's indoors. You lose the beautiful setting, you lose some of the set elements that can't move indoors, but you have a very intimate experience with the actors. You're really close to them, and there's a certain edge to their performance because they're working in a space they're not used to working in. There's some of that original practice kind of feel to it in terms of this is probably what these guys, when they were originally performing Shakespeare and they hardly rehearsed and they never saw the full script, it was probably a little bit like this. You weren't quite sure what the other person was going to do. How are they going to deal with the fact there's no pond right there now?
You're speaking from experience. That happened.
That happened
last
year.
Last year we had to go indoors.
Yeah.
And,
Just once.
People who see the indoor performances come away very energized, and the actors as well.
Well, the beauty of that is it's actually very intimate. I mean, even though Chapman is big, it's small.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
so you see the actors, you see the costumes up close. You know, the energy that happens between people. And,
right. You feel the live music. The band is much more. You feel them more. And we've always had live accompaniment for the shows, which really makes a difference. And we've worked with Joseph Getter, has been our musical director since the beginning, and we really at this point have a common language. We can really talk to each other and understand what we're trying to do. And this year is going to be different because it's Lear, and of our 8 previous years, we've done 7 comedies and Macbeth.
Oh, wow.
So we were a little daunted. It's like, well, Lear, are people going to be okay with Lear? But people are so excited about Lear. I can't tell you how many emails, comments, phone calls I get as people just like, I love Lear. I hear that so much. I love Lear. And it's like, and it just occurred to me, it's like, we make people laugh. Like last year, Much Ado About Nothing, there's a lot of laughter. I mean, probably there's going to be a lot of crying if we do the production well. And then maybe we should have little, like, King Lear handkerchiefs that we should sell. Our merchandise this year. It's your Lear hanky.
Yeah, well, that would actually make a great skit at the Poetry Slam, or the Shakespeare Slam. Yeah. How to prepare to be brokenhearted. Devastated. We can think about all the ways that you can both damn and praise are the same word. Right. We're speaking over the break a little bit about the geese, and so across these 10 years, the geese have made a regular appearance?
Yes.
So it must What are they doing in July? They're not going north or south. They're just flying over you.
That's interesting.
I think they like theater, and there's limited opportunities for quality outdoor theater. And the geese know.
So they're hanging out in the woods. Don't forget, it's in July.
I love that one monologue. Let's go.
Right. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the reservoirs around here. That this is probably summer habitat for them.
Maybe they're flying from one reservoir to the other.
Possibly, yeah.
And it just happens that they cross over.
Well, it is an amazing thing, and I was saying this at the break, that the one thing that sometimes upstages the actors is the environment. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's funny because I say this sometimes. The community college is a wonderful facility. There are lots of amazing classes happening in all of these buildings, but they're buildings, right? And you wouldn't know if you hadn't ambled back behind these buildings that are full of life, but there's this incredible grove, and as you said before, there's a grassy slope for the audience, but behind the playing space there are 16 cedar trees in a little semicircle abutted by 2 big pines. On the right side for the audience it's forest, and on the left you can see the river valley, and the sunsets are amazing. You start out and it's light and bright and sunny, and like you said, people bring picnics and blankets, and then by the time the play has ended, you're in the dark and the stars are out, and it's remarkable.
And there's usually some kind of live fire.
It is so
Controlled
magical.
fire.
Absolutely. Follow all the rules. Well, so we've announced a whole bunch of dates, but on your website, those dates will be available?
Yep.
So your website is?
www.art-farm.org. So www.art-farm.org.
Okay. All right. So I hope that everyone will check out all these opportunities to do all kinds of things, from circus to Shakespeare and everything in between and beyond and around in this theater that we call Middletown, Connecticut, right? The big stage.
That's right.
I want to thank you for joining me today, and we will talk again as we get closer. So this has been the Middlesex Moments radio show. And if you're interested in learning more about Middlesex Community College, from whence the show emanates, you can find us on the website at www.mxcc.edu. I'm Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, wishing you all a very good